In the hidden, encrypted spaces of the internet, there was a child who existed only as a ghost. For years, all investigators had was a name for her, Lucy. This is the story of the hunt to find her, an investigation that would push one agent to the very edge and would ultimately be solved not by breaking code, but by looking at a simple, everyday object that was hiding in plain sight.
Those are the words of Special Agent Greg Squire of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. And for him, they summed up the start of a truly punishing case. You see, the challenge felt impossible. The abuser was a digital phantom, and so was his victim. The only thing they had was a collection of deeply disturbing images circulating in the closed-off communities of the dark web. The investigation began where so many do these days, staring at a screen. But this was different. Squire was up against an adversary who truly understood how to be anonymous online and was using that knowledge to commit the most horrific crimes, seemingly without any fear of being caught.
Now, you have to understand, Greg Squire was a specialist. He was part of an elite unit, and his job meant he saw the very worst of humanity on a daily basis. But this case, this one was different. The girl they were calling Lucy was 12 years old, the exact same age as his own daughter. And with every new image that surfaced, the mission to find her became deeply, deeply personal.
This person was disciplined, incredibly cautious. They knew exactly what they were doing. Every single clue you might look for, a face in a picture frame, a brand name on a t-shirt, a view from a window, it was all gone, systematically removed. The digital trail was just one dead end after another. It was like hitting a wall of silence, built to protect a terrible secret.
With absolutely no digital leads, the team had no choice but to go back to the only evidence they had, the photos themselves. They started a painstaking search, looking at the most mundane objects in the background, just hoping that one of them, something, anything, might give away the location.
But the clues they found were just frustratingly generic. The light sockets, for instance. They confirmed the location was probably somewhere in North America. That's a search area of millions of square miles. The toys, the bedspread, the clothes, all mass-produced, all completely untraceable. They did get one small breakthrough. A sofa that was only sold in certain regions. But even that lead pointed to a vast territory.
40,000. That's the number of potential addresses they got from the customer list for that one sofa, spread across 29 American states. What felt like their first real lead had just shown them how impossible the task really was. They were no closer to finding Lucy.
So the investigation had completely stalled. All their technology had failed them, and it was at this point that the case took a completely unexpected turn, away from digital forensics and towards a field of expertise many would consider almost forgotten.
Staring at those same images again, Squire and his team started to think differently. They began to question their own methods. What if all the digital clues were a dead end by design? What if the real answer was in the physical world, in the very construction of the room itself?
And that's when they saw it. A feature of the room they had glanced at countless times, an exposed brick wall. It was unremarkable, common, but in a moment of pure desperation, Squire made a very unusual phone call. He got in touch with the Brick Industry Association and asked if anyone at all, could identify a specific type of brick from a single low-resolution photograph.
The association sent the image around to its members, and the response was almost immediate. A brick salesman named John Harp, a man with decades of experience in his field, recognized it instantly, and his next words would change the entire course of the investigation.
Harp told them the brick was called a flaming Alamo. He knew its unique pinkish color, its exact dimensions, and most importantly, he knew the exact years it was made and sold. For the very first time, the investigators had a real, tangible piece of evidence. The wall had been a silent witness all along, and now it had a name. With this new information, the digital and physical clues finally started to connect. The team now had two very distinct sets of data, a list of people who bought a specific sofa and the details of a very specific brick. The key was to find where those two worlds overlapped.
And then John Harp, the brick expert, provided a second, absolutely vital piece of the puzzle, and it was just a simple logistical fact. Bricks are heavy, which means they're expensive to transport, so they are almost always sourced from a local factory. This simple insight gave them the critical filter the investigation desperately needed.
And now the process became methodical. The team took the sofa customer list and overlaid it with a 100-mile radius around the factory that made the Flaming Alamo brick. That massive list of 40,000 suspects shrank to just 40 or 50. From there, they scoured social media until they found a photograph of Lucy. They sent pictures of houses in the area to Harp, who could tell them which ones were built in the right period to have that specific brick. And at last, they narrowed it down to a single address.
A quick records check confirmed who lived at the address. It was the boyfriend of Lucy's mother, a man who was already on record as a convicted sex offender. After 6 long years of abuse, an arrest was finally made, just hours later. Lucy was safe. Her abuser was eventually sentenced to more than 70 years in prison.
The case was officially closed, but the story, well, doesn't really end there. For everyone involved, the pursuit of justice leaves behind indelible marks. Rescuing a child from that kind of darkness carries its own profound and lasting cost.
For Greg Squire, the constant exposure to that level of evil took a severe psychological toll. It contributed to the breakdown of his marriage and led him to have suicidal thoughts. He describes the work as the thing that brings you so much energy, but also the thing that's slowly destroying you. Years later, Lucy, now a young woman, has found stability. With the support of those around her, she's able to speak about her ordeal, a powerful testament to her own resilience.
When they finally met, years after he found her, Lucy told Squire something remarkable. She said that in the days just before her rescue, she had been praying for the abuse to end, and his arrival, she told him, was the answer to that prayer. It was a quiet, powerful confirmation that all his work and all his own suffering had not been for nothing. The case of Lucy shows us the extraordinary lengths investigators will go to, but it also forces us to confront a difficult question. In the vital, necessary work of facing down the deepest darkness, what is the price paid by those we ask to stand on the front line for us?